Meanwhile, this woman woke up as the main suspect in her husband's murder without remembering anything. At the beginning of the film, we meet a woman named Miranda, a psychiatrist who works at a criminal psychiatric hospital that houses patients with serious mental disorders. One day, Miranda is conducting a therapy session with one of her patients, a woman named Chloe. Chloe was locked up for killing her stepfather after he tried to hurt her. During the session, Chloe once again talks about a mysterious figure that comes to hurt and torment her every night. However, as a psychiatrist who always relies on logic and science, Miranda believes that everything Chloe is describing is nothing more than a hallucination caused by her mental condition. Seeing that Miranda does not believe her at all, Chloe begins to lose control and angrily yells at her. Even so, Miranda stays firm in her opinion and decides to end the session before leaving the room. After that, Miranda meets her husband, Dr. Douglas. Like Miranda, Douglas is a psychiatrist and serves as the director of the criminal psychiatric hospital where they both work. Miranda complains about Chloe, who has spent the last 3 months talking about the same mysterious figure during every therapy session. In Miranda's opinion, Chloe's condition has shown no improvement because she always ends up talking about the same thing. Hearing her concerns, Douglas advises Miranda to stay focused on Chloe's mental condition and not pay too much attention to what he believes are simply hallucinations. A few moments later, a man named Dr. Pete arrives. He also works as a psychiatrist at the hospital. Not long after, Douglas excuses himself because he has to travel to an area called Willow Creek to take care of some business. After speaking briefly with Douglas and Pete, Miranda goes to see Dr. Phil, the deputy director of the hospital, to ask for several files related to Chloe's case. After getting the documents she needs, Miranda returns to her office and begins going through Chloe's history and treatment records. As it grows late, she eventually decides to head home. On her way back, she finds out that the main road she usually takes has been closed due to a landslide. A police officer at the scene directs Miranda to take a different route and cross a bridge to continue her journey home. While driving, Miranda is talking to her husband on the phone when she is suddenly shocked to see a mysterious young girl standing still in the middle of the road during a heavy rainstorm. The girl's sudden appearance causes Miranda to swerve, sending her car off the road and nearly causing an accident. Noticing that the girl's body is covered in bruises, Miranda quickly gets out of the car to check on her. However, as she gets closer, something terrifying happens. The girl's body suddenly bursts into flames before she reaches out and grabs Miranda's face. Miranda's vision goes dark and she loses consciousness. When Miranda finally comes around, she finds herself locked inside an observation room. Panicked and confused, she immediately starts screaming for answers until Dr. Pete arrives with several nurses to calm her down. Pete explains that she has been unconscious for 3 days and has been suffering from memory loss and serious changes in behavior. He then asks Miranda about the last thing she remembers before blacking out. Miranda recalls seeing a mysterious young girl standing in the middle of the road on her way home before losing consciousness. Confused by everything that is happening, Miranda asks to see her husband. However, Pete's expression suddenly turns serious. Reluctantly, he tells her that she will never be able to see Douglas again. Growing increasingly anxious, Miranda demands to know what happened. Pete finally reveals a shocking truth. Douglas is dead, and all the evidence points to Miranda as the person who killed him. Extremely upset after hearing the news, Miranda is given an injection to calm her down. However, instead of settling her, it causes her to experience a series of terrifying hallucinations. The following day, Miranda is finally allowed to leave the observation room and mix with the other patients in the hospital. There, she runs into Chloe. Seeing that Miranda has gone from being a doctor to becoming a patient herself, Chloe immediately approaches her with a sarcastic comment. In a mocking tone, she tells Miranda that no one will believe her anymore. After all, Miranda is now seen as no different from the other patients in the facility. After saying that, Chloe slips a newspaper clipping into Miranda's hand before walking away. As Miranda reads the article, she is shocked to see a report about her husband's death. The article explains that Douglas was brutally murdered and Miranda has been named as the main suspect in the case. The following day, Miranda wakes up after hearing strange noises coming from inside her cell. As she walks toward the glass window, it suddenly begins to fog up, even though no one is standing outside. Moments later, the words "not alone" mysteriously appear on the fogged glass. Although frightened, Miranda tries to convince herself that it is nothing more than a hallucination. Not long after, a nurse arrives to give Miranda her medication and take her to the shower area with the other patients. While there, Miranda suddenly sees the mysterious figure she had encountered near the bridge. The figure slowly approaches her before suddenly attacking. Panicked, Miranda fights back and screams for help, but no one is able to help her. After the attack, several deep scratches appear on her arm. Miranda is then taken to Dr. Pete for treatment. She insists that the injuries were not self-inflicted but were caused by the mysterious figure that attacked her. However, Pete refuses to believe her story and assures her that what she saw was simply a hallucination brought on by her unstable mental condition. While walking through the hospital courtyard, Miranda spots Dr. Phil and immediately approaches him. She tells him that Pete is not the right doctor to treat her. However, Dr. Phil responds that Pete is the only person he trusts to handle what Miranda is going through. Hearing this, Miranda feels even more hopeless, realizing that no one is willing to believe what she has been experiencing. The following day, Miranda's lawyer Teddy arrives to tell her that her trial has been moved up to the following week. According to the police, the evidence they have gathered is more than enough to bring Miranda to court on charges of murdering her own husband. Upon hearing this, Miranda immediately objects. She insists that she is innocent and urges the police to carry out a more thorough investigation. According to Miranda, although all the evidence points to her, there is no logical reason or motive for her to kill the husband she had been living happily with for years. Not long after, a sheriff named Ryan arrives to question Miranda. Ryan was Douglas's closest friend and is still deeply shattered by his death. Convinced that Miranda is responsible, he constantly pressures her and treats her as if she has already been proven guilty. Faced with these accusations, Miranda can only stay silent as the pressure keeps building. Seeing the situation becoming increasingly tense, Pete asks Ryan to stop the questioning because Miranda is still not mentally stable. However, the request only makes Ryan even angrier. He then shows Miranda several photographs of Douglas's body. While looking through the pictures, Miranda notices the words "not alone" written at the crime scene. What shocks her even more is the realization that she was the one who wrote the message while killing Douglas, despite having no memory of doing so. Suddenly, the cuts on Miranda's arm begin bleeding again. When she removes the bandage, everyone in the room is stunned to see the wounds on her arm forming the words "not alone." The strange incident leaves the entire room speechless. Seeing Miranda's condition becoming increasingly unstable, Dr. Pete gives her a sedative, causing her to lose consciousness once again. While unconscious, Miranda begins to experience fragments of memories that had been buried deep within her mind. In these visions, she remembers the moment she encountered the mysterious young girl near the bridge. After the girl touched her face, Miranda seemed to lose control of herself. She then returned home where Douglas was waiting for her. Unable to control her actions, Miranda suddenly attacked her husband and killed him. These fragments of memory finally make Miranda realize that she was indeed at the scene and that she truly killed Douglas with her own hands. Even so, Miranda remains convinced that something was controlling her that night. The following day, Miranda meets with Dr. Phil and begins telling him everything she remembers about the night Douglas died. Filled with guilt, she admits that she was at the scene and was involved in her husband's death. However, she insists that she was under the influence of a force she cannot explain. During their conversation, Miranda suddenly notices a photograph of a young girl on Dr. Phil's desk. She instantly recognizes the girl as the same person she encountered on the road the night before she lost consciousness. Hearing this, Dr. Phil is visibly shocked and explains that the girl is Rachel, his daughter, who died 4 years earlier. Phil then reveals that Rachel's body was found in the river beneath the bridge Miranda crossed on the night everything happened. This revelation makes Miranda even more convinced that Rachel is somehow connected to the strange events she has been experiencing. One night, Miranda is visited once again by Rachel's spirit. Although she never believed in anything supernatural before, Miranda now tries to talk to her and asks Rachel to open the door to her cell. Strangely, Rachel does exactly that, as if she is trying to guide Miranda towards something. Rachel then briefly shows herself, frightening Miranda and nearly causing her to be spotted by a janitor. Taking advantage of the situation, Miranda secretly grabs a screwdriver from the janitor's cart. A short time later, Miranda manages to unlock Pete's office and get the key to her own office. However, Pete's computer suddenly turns on by itself and shows an article about Rachel's death, which had been ruled a suicide. At that moment, Miranda notices Rachel's figure on a security camera monitor, standing still outside Chloe's cell. Sensing that something is wrong, Miranda rushes toward Chloe's room and hears a loud banging noise coming from inside. When she looks through the door, she is horrified to see Chloe appearing to be hurt by a man with a tattoo of a burning woman on his chest. Terrified, Miranda immediately runs away but is quickly caught by 2 guards. She desperately tries to convince them that someone is hurting Chloe and begs them to check on her. However, the guards ignore her and lock her back inside the isolation room. When Dr. Pete comes to see her, Miranda immediately asks about Chloe and the injuries on her face. However, Pete explains that Chloe's hallucinations had simply flared up again and that she had hurt herself. Miranda then tells him about the man with the tattoo she saw hurting Chloe inside the room. But when Chloe is asked about the mysterious figure, she refuses to give any explanation. Pete continues to listen to Miranda's story, but approaches everything from a logical point of view. He then asks why she printed the article about Rachel's death. Miranda explains that she believes Rachel did not take her own life but was murdered. She claims that she saw Rachel's body covered in cuts and bruises, injuries that she believes do not match someone who died by suicide. However, Pete remains convinced that the investigation clearly concluded Rachel's death was a suicide. After hearing Miranda's claims, Pete becomes even more certain that her mental condition is getting worse and dismisses everything she says as part of the hallucinations she is experiencing. The following day, Miranda approaches Chloe, who is sitting alone in the hospital courtyard. Filled with regret, she apologizes for never believing her stories. After going through a series of strange events herself, Miranda has begun to realize that Chloe may have been telling the truth all along. She then asks who has been hurting Chloe all this time. Chloe simply stares at her and replies that it is the work of the devil. As she hugs Miranda, Chloe goes on to warn her that the devil will make Miranda its next victim. Not long after, Miranda is moved to a special observation room. However, Rachel's spirit returns and begins tormenting her, leaving Miranda terrified. Seeing her screaming and acting out of control, the staff quickly rush into the room to hold her back. In the middle of the chaos, Miranda spots an opportunity to grab a set of keys and escape. Afterward, she hides inside the hospital's swimming pool to avoid being caught by the security guards. Suddenly, the power throughout the facility goes out, allowing Miranda to crawl into another room without being noticed. When the electricity comes back on, she is found by a staff member. Surprisingly, instead of turning her in, the employee helps Miranda escape. He hands her his car keys and tells her to leave as quickly as possible. After escaping from the hospital, Miranda is once again visited by Rachel's spirit, which seems determined to guide her back to her own home. Once there, Miranda begins recalling more fragments of the night Douglas was killed. Overwhelmed with guilt, she is devastated by the realization that she was responsible for her husband's death. While thinking about the memories she shared with Douglas, Miranda's attention is drawn to a photograph of the 2 of them at one of their houses located in an area called Willow Creek. Believing the place may hold important clues, she decides to go there. After searching the property, Miranda enters a storage shed and becomes suspicious when she finds boxes filled with camera equipment belonging to Douglas. Her suspicions grow even stronger when she finds a hidden door leading to a basement. Once inside, Miranda is shocked to discover a secret room that appears to have been used to hold and hurt someone. Inside the room, Miranda finds various recording equipment and several videotapes. When she plays one of the recordings, she is horrified to see Douglas hurting a young girl who had been held there. The discovery finally exposes the dark secret her husband had been hiding for years. It turns out that Douglas had been secretly kidnapping, imprisoning, and hurting numerous young girls. Suddenly, Miranda hears footsteps coming from upstairs and slowly moving toward the basement. She cautiously approaches the staircase, but as soon as she reaches it, a police officer confronts her and orders her to drop the knife she is holding. Moments later, a pair of hands suddenly appears from behind a hidden door beneath the stairs. It is a young girl desperately begging to be freed. This discovery further confirms that the place had indeed been used to hold victims. Shortly after, Miranda is taken into police custody. Meanwhile, Dr. Pete and her lawyer Teddy urge Ryan to return Miranda to the psychiatric hospital. However, Ryan refuses, believing there are still many unanswered questions surrounding the case. After all, Miranda is still the main suspect in Douglas's murder, and Ryan wants to keep investigating her before making any decisions. Meanwhile, Dr. Phil meets with Miranda and admits that he is devastated after learning the truth about the crimes Douglas had been hiding for years. Miranda also feels betrayed by Douglas. For years, she trusted him completely and never questioned the man he appeared to be. Only now does she discover that her husband was far from the kind and respectable person she believed him to be. Miranda then explains that it was Rachel's spirit that guided her to uncover all of those dark secrets. She also convinces Phil that Rachel was one of Douglas's victims and that her death was not a suicide. According to Miranda, this is why Rachel kept leaving behind the message "not alone," a warning that Rachel was not the only victim of Douglas's crimes. Dr. Phil then reveals that he often dreams of Rachel burning in flames. Hearing this, Miranda tells him that when she first encountered Rachel's spirit, she also saw her burning in flames. Miranda believes it may be a clue Rachel is trying to leave behind, but she still has no idea what it means. One night, Miranda asks Ryan to meet with her so she can share a theory she has been working on. After putting together the clues Rachel had been leaving behind, Miranda begins to understand the true meaning of the message "not alone." In her view, the message does not simply mean that Rachel was not the only victim. It is also a warning that Douglas did not act alone and that another person responsible is still out there. Miranda becomes even more convinced of this because despite Douglas's crimes being exposed and Douglas himself being dead, Rachel's spirit continues to haunt her as if there is still unfinished business. Miranda then shares her suspicion about a man with a tattoo of a burning woman on his chest. She believes that this man is the second person Rachel has been trying to expose all along. The reason Miranda becomes so convinced that the second person is the man with the tattoo is because Rachel always appears surrounded by flames whenever she shows herself. To Miranda, this seems to be Rachel's way of pointing toward the tattoo worn by the guilty party. Interestingly, Miranda is not the only one who sees this image. Dr. Phil also admits that for years he has repeatedly dreamed of Rachel surrounded by flames. This suggests that Rachel had been trying to leave clues about her killer for a long time, but Miranda was the only one able to connect the pieces together and understand what those clues truly meant. However, the moment she mentions this theory, Ryan's expression immediately changes. As a psychiatrist, Miranda is used to reading people's body language and feelings, and she quickly notices that Ryan appears nervous and uneasy. At that moment, she remembers that Ryan was Douglas's closest friend and had been by his side for many years. Suddenly, Miranda realizes that the second person she has been searching for is Ryan himself. Miranda immediately tries to escape, but Ryan manages to pin her down. In the struggle, she pulls aside his shirt and discovers a tattoo of a burning woman on his chest, exactly like the one she saw on the man who appeared to be hurting Chloe. The discovery confirms all of her suspicions. It is finally revealed that Ryan was not only Douglas's closest friend, but also his partner in a series of terrible crimes. Since their teenage years, the two had worked together to kidnap, imprison, hurt, and murder numerous young girls. As a police officer, Ryan also helped cover up these crimes by falsifying the causes of death of their victims to avoid suspicion. Not only that, Ryan is strongly believed to be the same figure who had been secretly hurting female patients at the psychiatric hospital, including Chloe. This may explain why Chloe repeatedly claimed that a threatening presence came to torment her night after night. Ryan then pulls out a syringe filled with a sedative in an attempt to silence Miranda. However, just as he is about to inject her, the lights in the room suddenly begin to flicker, causing him to lose focus. Seizing the opportunity, Miranda escapes and hides beneath a nearby table. Ryan immediately goes after her, firing several shots. However, one of the bullets strikes a gas pipe, causing gas to leak into the room. As he continues searching for Miranda, Rachel's spirit suddenly appears and distracts him. Ryan begins chasing Rachel and fires his gun once again. Unaware that the room is now filled with gas, the gunshot triggers a massive explosion that covers him in flames. In the middle of the chaos, Miranda emerges with a pistol she found beneath the table and shoots Ryan dead. In the end, Miranda manages to stop Ryan, the man who had secretly worked alongside Douglas in a series of terrible crimes. With both people responsible now dead and the truth finally out, Rachel's spirit is finally able to rest in peace. 1 year later, after the truth has fully come to light, both Miranda and Chloe are cleared of all the charges that had been hanging over them. As they walk together, Miranda reveals that ever since those events, she has gained the ability to see and sense spirits, something she was never able to do before. Meanwhile, Chloe is finally able to live a normal life again after Ryan's death, the man who had been responsible for her suffering. After Chloe leaves, Miranda suddenly sees the spirit of a young boy standing in the middle of the road. A missing person poster showing the boy's face can be seen attached to a nearby pole, suggesting that he had been reported missing long before. The scene strongly suggests that the boy is already dead, and his spirit may be seeking Miranda's help, just as Rachel once did, to uncover the truth behind his disappearance and death. And with that, the story comes to an end.